am excited to share with you the full reveal of my Fearless Era embroidery hoop. I absolutely love this hoop, and I can't wait to tell you about all the little details. But why don't we start like we do with all the videos with going behind the hoop and check out the hoop guts. So here they are. You can see a lot of just beading thread in this area. This is pretty heavily beaded. And then the thicker threads along here. This is the DMC matte cotton thread. This is 2 layers of fabric here. So this was the trickiest part, and I did share some videos on Instagram to my subscribers about how I did manage getting this to stay where it needed to be. So there are the hoop guts, and let's flip it back over again. So this was inspired by a Pinterest board that I made up, just like with my other hoop, and I think I'm going to turn the light off so you can see it better. So these are just some of, this wasn't a huge Pinterest board that I used because I really did find, I knew what I wanted to do with this one. This was the main photo inspiration. And then the colors, of course, we've got a lot of the shimmer, the gold. But this, I had a fabric that I wanted to use. I'm going to turn the light back on again. This is just a scrap of apparel fabric that I picked up at Joann. I'm always checking out the apparel fabrics, and you can see I just bought a 1/4 yard cut. I don't need a lot of fabrics for projects like this, but I do like to have them on hand. So whenever I go in, I just check out what cool textures there are, and this really is one of my very favorite textures. I'm going to be doing another behind the hoop project that I worked on, and I used the same fabric in that. So I'm going to save these little scraps just because this is definitely something I'm going to use again in another project. So I had these fabrics, and it reminded me so much of this dress. Oops, there's the light again. It reminded me so much of this dress, and so I had to kind of replicate that, which is what I did with this hoop. So here's your full picture. I used the fabric to create this dress shape. So I kind of like gathered it. I really didn't have a plan going into it other than I just wanted to use the fabric, and I was kind of wanting to make like a dress. There are some movable parts on this dress, just some strands of bugle beads and the check glass seed beads. And there's the bottom layer of the dress. So I took one long strip of fabric, cut it into 3 pieces, the lower part, and just secured each one down with stitches. And then in these areas, I filled in the empty space with a lot of beads. So there's just so much sparkle in this one. These super cool little flowers, I'll show you from the side. There's a lot of like raised flowers on this one. These were passed along to me from a friend who got them from her mother's vintage bead collection. She was a jewelry maker. And so I just treasured these little bits that were passed along to me. Also the heart, we've got the Fearless heart. I couldn't forget that. Kind of like the head of the dress, also filled in with beads. The background fabric is 2 layers of, again, apparel fabric. The first one was a satin fabric, and then I layered on top of that a lace. And if you check out my Instagram page, you can see I did show like the different steps that I created, that I did to get to this point of the finished hoop. So there's 2 layers of fabric, and then on top of the lace I kind of outlined the little bits of lace in colonial knots, and then added some sequins because you've got to have some sequins here. So here is my Fearless hoop, and don't forget that I also did, I'll pull it out, this is the first in this series. This was the debut inspired hoop. So follow along with me. I'm going to do each one of the eras in my embroidery hoops, mixing it in with other projects. And every time I finish one, I will put a video up here. Follow along with me on Instagram and you can see all of my latest projects that I'm working on. And I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at my Fearless Era hoop.